Kia ora to those joining online. Thanks for joining us here as well. Always better in person. There's sushi, beer, wine, and soda as well. So if you are in Wellington, thanks to those who came to join us in person. I'm Chris. I'm from Creative HQ. I run a number of our programs, including our startup sessions, which are these evening events we run. I also run our Startup Aotearoa program, which provides free coaching for startup founders, whether you're at idea stage or raising capital. So check out startupaotearoa.org. You can get free coaching through that program, regardless where you are in the country. The coaches are from a range of backgrounds, but we tailor the coaching to the individual to make sure you're getting the support you need. And that program's been running for almost a year now, and we've been really seeing really great results from it. We've also got other programs, including Founder Launch, which is a free online platform where you can be part of a learning community and you can actually learn some of the skills you need as a founder. Other stuff we've got coming up, we've got our FinTech Showcase coming up to the end of this month. We've still got a few tickets left, not very many tickets left for that. It's going to be a showcase of the teams who've just been through our 12-week accelerator, the 14 FinTech teams, and a number of other speakers who've been founders previously or other people involved in the FinTech sector. And it's been really lovely to have Salamander Group, who've been a part of that and who are also a part of this tonight. So I'm here to welcome Daniel, introduce Daniel. Daniel spends a lot of his time being a fractional CMO, has a really fascinating background across a FinTech startup. I saw crypto, all sorts of different territories, based now in Singapore, but we're very lucky that thanks to the partnership with Salamander, that Daniel is here in Wellington, talking to some of our startups and running this event tonight. So thank you, Daniel. Big round of applause for you, and I'll hand over to you to run the lecture.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Creative HQ. So in the back, I have my esteemed colleague, Paddy. I wouldn't say so, but Paddy is also here. So he's basically the representative for Salamander Advisory here in New Zealand, in Wellington. So there's anything you want to ask, and I'm not around anymore by the end of the week, feel free to reach out to Paddy, and he is more than happy to entertain. So this exciting 45 minutes, what I have for you is really about scaling, right? Going to other markets besides New Zealand and Australia. Australia is not my area of expertise, but we have also other representatives there. But what Salamander does, what I will quickly explain, is we basically be a fractional C-suite. So allow me a 2 minutes commercial before I start into the interesting details. So we are a fractional C-suite. So we have fractional CTO, CFO, COO, CMO like myself. And we basically help startups and scale-ups to scale globally. Besides the fractional, we also help VCs. So we basically come into a VC portfolio and we help out if there are any challenges within the existing companies that they have. Usually 2, 3 will do well, 2, 3 are struggling, and the other 2, 3 out of the 10, they won't make it, right? So that's what we do. So we do the funding, so we help with the fundraising. We have access to top tier talent, so we're about in 30 markets globally, 60 experts when it comes to fractional, and we can scale very effectively. So this is where we see our HQ is in Singapore, so that's where I'm based. Singapore, we've got about 30 plus of us. And why Singapore, you might wonder? Well, later in the slides, I will tell you more about Singapore. If it hasn't been on your radar, I hope after this session it will be on your radar if you really...
That's my home country.
That's your home country, perfect. Well, I hope you can share also more. Great. So very short about myself. So I've been for about 15 years in marketing and sales. I think this is now my 4th scale up. The most successful unicorn I worked for in Southeast Asia was Coda Payments. So in about 10 years, we did $300 million revenue. We were profitable after year 6. And we did a Series C raise of $690 million US. And all those Series C raise didn't go back into the company. So they did a Series C raise to bring other investors on board, and the founders cashed out. So they didn't go IPO. They might go IPO after this. I think in the next 2 years they will IPO. But this is one of the most successful unicorns coming out of Singapore. Besides that, I also used to run my own B2B and B2C digital agency. So I scaled it to Singapore, to Indonesia and Malaysia. So I have a lot of experience also opening up markets besides for tech startups. And I also do quite a lot of training. So I'm an INSEAD alumni. Those are one of the top business schools in Europe. And I also train quite a lot of leaders like yourself who maybe want to expand, but how we all bring them together, right? What are our expansion strategies? What are lead gen strategies? So this is some of the trusted clients I've worked with. Also big multinationals, but also scale-ups. One of the scale-ups that I used to work with, and this one called Lemnistec, they sold to Facebook. They just raised $1 million and they 10x sold to Facebook in Singapore, very fast. They were only 3 years in business. So once you got a great proposition and it matches the market expectation, you can also sell very fast. I have a lot of experience. My experience mainly is in tech. So fintech, cybersecurity, learning management systems, software as a service, coder payments. So a lot of experience in tech. Why tech? And later on we do a quick round, but why tech? It can scale. You can scale globally. If you have a physical product, it's so much tougher to scale globally. So that's shortly about me. And now I want to pass over very quickly for everyone because I want to know who's in the room and what you want to get out of this session, because I will be here for a week. I'm running a full day session tomorrow, also with Creative HQ. So if you're not coming tomorrow, I would like to get to know you today at least. So 30 seconds maybe each, and I've met Wendy before, so I start with Wendy again. So very short, your name, your company background, and why are you here today?
Okay, so kia ora, name is Wendy, company background. I'm a director of a company called Outbox. We are a cyber resilience company looking to provide training and process improvement to small to medium business, both here in New Zealand and globally. Hence the reason why we're here today is we just are doing a lot of R&D at the moment around how to scale, where to scale, and which markets that we're really wanting to go into, because we've had some good interest in what we've got. So the market value is there. It's just how we do that.
Okay, excellent.
Hi, I'm Paula. Currently, I'm consulting for a company where they have, streamline all the operations, financials, and the way they approach customers. And so the idea from here on is, to be able to grow the, company and scale it.
Great, sounds good.
Well, hi everyone, my name is Sol and I'm just tagging along with Paula. I'm an IT consultant.
Yeah.
And beside what she said that she's currently working on, she has this startup brain with all these amazing ideas, and then I'm the minion in the back trying to help out.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm very connected to CHQ. I've run an incubator years ago, and I'm on the board of a company that is that just brought out an applied or wearable technology, and is also looking for the Asian markets to get into the Asian markets. And then there's the question which one to start with.
Which one to start with? I think today or tomorrow we'll be able, hopefully, to answer that for you.
Yeah.
My name is Braden. I work for a New Zealand fintech startup. Not representing them here today at all. We already have a very set growth strategy. We're expanding quite quickly, but I'm mostly here for my own learning, just to sort of get some inspiration.
Excellent, excellent.
Hi everyone, my name is Karthik, and I have a background in tech and sales. And I'm here today because I'm working on a pre-MVP on my idea, which is to digitalize enterprise sales.
Good.
Kia ora, I'm Erica and I am a founder. My company Volition is building accessible tools for disabled people to communicate how they want to receive support to the agencies that provide support. And I'm here today because we launched 3 weeks ago in New Zealand, but we want to go elsewhere quickly.
Okay, excellent.
Hello guys, my name is Nicholas. I'm 18. I'm a founder of a software company called Quaila.io. We make custom software development, apps, websites, and now we're moving into AI and consultation.
All right.
So
Kia ora koutou, I'm Constance, and I'm in my early startup days, and I'm looking at enhanced stakeholder engagement tools. So I'm here to learn from everyone, including yourself. Kia ora.
Cool. My name's John. I work for an IT company, so just representing myself today. The reason why I'm here today is my friend Robin, who's helping organise this, might be a good event to come and check out. So here I am. Excellent.
Good day, my name is Annie. I'm the founder of a tech company in immigration, trying to help people simplify people's immigration journeys from when they decide what country they might want to move to, including the visa journeys that may lead to residence ultimately, because it's a very complicated process at the moment. Because of the nature of the subject matter, I do want to scale globally eventually. We are very early, but I do just want to learn about what I might need to start thinking about early on.
Excellent.
So I'm Jared. I work for a company called Cyber Team, and we've also got a risk management product that we're trying to grow. So here to learn where to go next.
Kia ora everyone, Stephen. So I'm the co-founder of a platform called Huawei, which is a fresh approach to growth, helping companies fuse everything from CRM to bids and strategy into one platform. And excitingly, we're off to the US next month to launch. So very, very good timing to come in here.
Just in time, the pitfalls and the
Exactly, hopefully we have more to go.
Hi, I'm Arnott. I've been working on a recipe app called a cheesy. It makes dinner easy. The idea is that you tell it the ingredients you want to use, and then it gives you three recipes that use those ingredients. Cheesy was actually born in the UK. And my aspiration is definitely to kind of make use of the foundation that I started there to eventually, scale to UK. So that's why I'm here.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria. I consider myself a builder. I run a web design and development studio, dipping my toe at the product. I'm here today because I'm really curious and there are a few friends here and I really wanted to learn more. So, yeah.
Kia ora, I'm Keaton. I'm the founder of a company called Perfect Circle. So I have a store on Wellington selling vintage clothing. And here today is part of how I'm scaling and selling overseas through online. So just keen to take what I can. It's applicable. Perfect, thank you.
My name is Shen. We have a big tech company. It goes physical and software with that.
Hi guys, my name is James. I'm a partner at another VC overseas called Redline Capital, and I'm contemplating starting a new fund here in New Zealand. And I'm like Maria, I'm just very curious. I'm trying to just kind of figure out the whole ethos and the energy of the entrepreneurial body here in this great country, and try to work up enough courage to be in a new market that I've never really delved in before.
Good to see you. Introduce yourself, Betty.
I'm Pat Cullen. So I'm originally Irish. I have a company here called Sovereign Systems, mainly does security and intelligence work, but I also work with Salamander as their local representative.
Okay, good, excellent.
But just a quick note for the online people, the Q&A is not working properly tonight through Zoom, so I'm just about to send out an email with a link to a Q&A platform that you can just fire your questions into there instead, so that you can also, and then I'll feed them through to Daniel.
Perfect, thank you. So I have about 35 minutes left, so I'll try to keep it very to the point. So I have 4 chapters to cover. So the first chapter I'm going to cover is first your groundwork. This is already where I think 8 out of 10 startups fail because they don't do their groundwork. So let's start with the groundwork first. And let me ask you a question. Consider expanding international. What are you going to do? What's the first or the second thing that you're going to do? What's the first thing what you're going to do?
Decide what market you want to expand.
Okay, yeah, besides that.
Google.
Google, okay. What else?
Customers.
Talk to customers. I like that one. That one is important.
Market validation.
Market validation. I see a lot of people nodding. Exactly. So the first step is market validation. Talk to your customer. If you don't talk to your customer, don't expand. If there's a need, you'll sense it straight away. If there's no need, maybe you just wait and see. Right? Expansion costs a lot of time and costs a lot of money, and it takes time to be successful, right? So figure out your customer demand, figure out who's your competition. Is that country or your customer, is that a culture fit? Culture is, I think, one of the things that people underestimate all the time and make very expensive mistakes. The other things are important. Legal is, of course, important. Operations, partnerships. So I would say probably point 1 and 4 are the most important things for startups. The rest, there is some wiggle room, right? So keep in mind where you expand, lay your foundation. If you don't lay your foundation, I have a case study later, doesn't matter how successful you've been or how smart, or how much money you have, you can fail. So what you need to do first, exactly what, talk to your customer, do a bit of research, go to Google. Google's the first step. But what I always say is be customer focused, do a market scan, figure out, okay, do I understand the markets? What are the drivers? What's happening there? So this is the first thing that you do. So you do some, talk to people in the market, right? Get on the phone with people. And what do you do usually after you've done some market validation? What would you do? Say that market validation sounds good. What's the next step you're going to do when you're considering going to that market?
You go there.
Exactly. You go there. You hop on a plane and you go there for at least a week. You sniff everything out. You talk to people. If you don't do this, I think you're 50-50 if you're going to exceed the film. A lot of people sit behind a laptop in the end, especially if you're in B2B sales, right? You're B2B sales, you're a B2B tech company, you have to go there. And what do you do then? You go talk to people. Go to talk to people in the industry, talk to potential customers, because it's also now an idea to maybe get your direct first sale. If you get your first sales in the market, your validation is there, you directly have a case study, and you can move on quite quickly. But really go there. And here, for instance, I summarize very quickly what you can do. So usually you come on a Saturday, you relax on a Sunday, and then you spend the full 5 days in that market. Talk to people from 8 a.m. breakfast till 10 o'clock drinks. You'll figure it out. So what do you think are some of the pitfalls that you can make when you expand to a market? Who has expanded overseas before? 1, 2? Okay, 2 people have expanded overseas before. Okay, then maybe I will dive a little bit deeper in this. What I see very often, people come with this big thing from, oh, total addressable market. Oh, we have the Asian market is growing so much. Okay, that's great to know, right? Oh, English, everybody speaks English. Hey, you guys are Kiwis. English is great, but if you want to expand, you have to adapt, right? Oh, we have a superior product. We're better than all the locals out there. Most of the time, this is not the case. Sure, you have a superior product, but that's just the first part, right? And then what we see very often, if you want to move to Asia, so whether you're interested in Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, you look at things and you think, oh, one size fits all, right? So if I'm from Australia or New Zealand, oh, I can go to the UK and USA, that might work. But if you go into Europe or you go to Asia Pacific, it's very different. Then, of course, if you, for instance, sell your product in Malaysia, you guys know what's 1 ringgit worth. Might be very different than when you sell your product in Singapore. Singapore, maybe you can charge the same price as New Zealand. But there's higher competition, right? And then, what's your local value proposition? Are you in that market? Are you going to be permanent? Or that's something that you just touch and go? People will sniff you out. People will ask you a lot of questions. And very often they do it in a very subtle way that you don't even know it. They'll ask you, where do you stay? How long are you here for? Do you have family here? They will ask to validate whether you're serious. Especially if you're selling in B2B, right? And then what kind of business relationships do you have? Do you have existing customers here that you can leverage over there? So always see where you can create that leverage, right? That can work for you. If you don't have it, it can get really tough and you might lose a lot of money, right? So what are some of the aha moments that I can share? So for instance, Singapore, I would say it's starting to be the hub of the world. And maybe you haven't heard about Singapore before, but it's definitely the hub for Asia, right? So do you guys know what's the first language in Singapore? Not the language.
Sorry, there are 4 languages.
Yeah, but what's the language of instruction? English, yeah, English. So, okay, that battle you've already won, right? So you can communicate, you don't need to change your website. What I like about Singapore, that almost everything can be legally enforced. So if shit happens, you can enforce. If you go to Malaysia, Indonesia, it might be a little bit different, right? Right? So it's efficient hiring and firing. Firing, hiring. What's the key thing when you expand? You hire people and sometimes you gotta fire them. Right? If you go to the European countries, you try, hiring will take a long time, firing will even take longer, right? Singapore is very efficient. There's a fast, affordable way how to set up the business. Well, while we're talking, I could have already set up my business in Singapore. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to represent Singapore. I'm just giving you the options, giving you the path when you expand, what you need to think about, right?
Why is the hiring so efficient? I can understand firing maybe legally, like more efficient. Why is hiring more efficient?
It just moves fast in Singapore. Things just move so fast. I mean, I'm from the Netherlands. When I came to Singapore, the first months I was just, wow, the space is so fast, I love things. You get responses by almost everyone by the end of the day. You ask something, people are very fast. Singapore and Hong Kong, I think in general, the culture is just very fast paced in doing business. When you tell somebody, hey, let's make an appointment in 3 weeks, they're like, hey, why not tomorrow? That's my experience in working in Singapore, right? So you can do things very fast. Same with hiring, right? People are not going to sit around waiting to be hired. It's a rapid pace of doing things. Then, of course, you can build trust very quickly. You come from New Zealand. New Zealand has a great reputation out there, right? So leverage that to your advantage, right? And of course, we have the Asian middle class that is growing. I think one of the most successful startups out there is Xero, right? Xero came out of New Zealand, and probably Southeast Asia is one of the largest markets. They did extremely well. Although, yeah, they raised a lot of money, $600 million, but we all got to start somewhere, right? What I see what many startups and scale-ups also do, Singapore opens you to the rest of the world. It's a credibility build, right? So if you want to say, hey, I want to check out India, I want to go to the UK, see Singapore as a stepping stone. And you have a lot of large markets nearby, right? Which are maybe difficult to reach from New Zealand. Think about Japan, think about Korea, India, China, even more important, right? But that sometimes can be tricky. The 4 biggest economy will be US, will be China, India, and Japan. So you all got it within the pack, right?
What I mean, all know that fintech is really good, in Singapore. What are other industries you see have been?
Fintech is good. Enterprise tech, really good. Enterprise tech in general. Deep tech. Enterprise tech, deep tech. Fintech, really big. Anything which has to do with financials, Singapore is very key. Because they see themselves as the fintech hub of the world. So even agri-tech, yeah. Education also, but it's a bit more protected the markets in Asia when it comes to it. Private education, yes, but government education, I think, is more protected. Because if you want to, I think education, the UK and probably the US is a lot more interested.
India.
Yeah. India, yes, India, but that's again a leak on its own. Yeah. So now talking very quickly about what are some of the cultural complexities, right? So let me give you this case study. So this CEO, fantastic CEO, comes from the Netherlands, very quick, successful. After he graduated from uni, this guy was 20 years old. He started his own company. In about 15 years, he grows it to 15,000 employees. And he got acquired for $500 million. This was before the big startup boom, right? 2004. So this CEO, this Dutch guy, says, oh, I got money, I raise again, 2018. He built a business, 50 million euros, profitable, raises another 12 million euros, and wants to expand to Southeast Asia because this is the middle class, this is growing, this is where the money is, right? So he has certain things in place. So this is always how I try to structure things, right? He has partnerships that he can leverage, right? They have a very strong partnership with Google. Google, one of the most powerful companies in the world. HubSpot. He wants to set up in Singapore and Indonesia. He gets another 10 million euros from angel investors, another 2 million. So he has quite a big war chest, right? To really hit the market hard, right? And then he thinks, oh, the guy that got me, my company running very well in the Netherlands, I bring him to Singapore and lead in the business. So unfortunately, I will cover this case study more in depth tomorrow because we have limited time today. But let me give you a background how it went. So basically, summary of the key learning, 2 years down the road, very mixed feelings. So this guy basically, he acquired quite some SMEs, few MNCs. Singapore is going quite all right. Indonesia, he didn't. Very difficult to penetrate. Then his partnership is underperforming. So in the Netherlands, he gets 30% of their partners from Google and HubSpot. Right? 30% of the revenue just gets passed on to you. Oh, here's your client, try it out. In Singapore, less than 5%. However, he has found a model that works. He sees, hey, if I service my clients from Indonesia, my cost is a lot cheaper, so I can service the Singapore clients from Indonesia. So he sees there is some potential, right? But then, again, because he's expanding, he has difficulties attracting the right talent. He has to overpay the market, 30 to 40%. Think about that when you expand, right? Who wants to work for you? Who are you? You're new. Do you have a lot of money? Most of the time in the beginning, you don't. Right? So maybe you overpay, or maybe you don't know what's the price of the talent in your market. And then he's burning lots of money, 1.5 million euros a year, he's just burning. That gotta hurt, right? So what he did wrong, he brought some guy in from the Netherlands who doesn't understand any cultural difference. He is inexperienced and unfamiliar with local markets. Even he brings in this MD in Indonesia, which is an Indonesian Dutch. She can't get the business running. She can't get a foot in the door in the big companies. Right? And then there's also intense competition. There's a lot of competition locally, right? With strong local and international players. So what do you think the CEO is going to do? I know we don't have a lot of time for it, but do you think he's going to succeed or not? He's experienced. He IPO'd before. 500 million.
Wants a strong local partnership
That's a excellent.
with someone who is attracting talent.
Plows loads more money in and burns it all.
What else? Ladies in the back, gents and ladies in the back, what do you think, guys think?
Move to Singapore or wherever it's based.
What else do you guys think?
I try to find a force multiplier like the lady up front had said. You need to find a power player within your vertical in that paradigm. Yeah, that's what I do.
Cool. So what he tried to do is he tried to build, he tried to buy his competitors. Did you think he failed or did he think he was successful?
He failed.
He failed.
Yeah. Don't buy them.
So basically, he failed, but he succeeded in another way. So he failed to buy over companies who he can integrate. He has done it before, but he failed in Asia because he didn't understand the cultural difference. But actually, towards the end, he already said I want to pull the company out. He scored a deal of 2.5 million euros, but he pulled after 2.5 years. So he would have been cash positive He would have done well. He wouldn't have to buy the companies, but he wouldn't give it time enough. After 2.5 years, he pulled. If he stayed 3 years, he would be cash positive. The team start running. He would probably kick his Indonesian MD out, put something good, or buy a company there. He would have been very successful because he definitely had something going.
Wasn't you right?
Yeah, such a pity. Such a pity because he is a high achiever. Extremely high achiever. You don't have this many people usually in these countries who can do this kind of things, right? Okay, now bringing it back to talent, because talent is key for running your company. If you don't attract the right talent and if you don't retain it, you can't expand. You can throw a lot of money, but talent and culture is still something. So when you're expanding overseas, how many people do you think you should hire? Do you go big? What did we learn from the CEO? He went big, right? He suffered. He burned a lot of money first, without realizing who do I need to hire. So usually I tell smaller companies, start with 3 to 4 people. Right? You get maybe 1 MD, you get 1 sales manager, right? Because an MD and a sales, they can't do most of the time the same thing. Maybe the MD can support your sales manager. And then you can find somebody who's in operations, right? Who can do the technical talk. So in general, if you expand, you need to start first with 1, always sales. You need some brains, somebody can talk, and somebody in operations. So you look at effectively 3 people ideally. Right? So when you hire in Asia, and I've hired and fired, unfortunately, a lot of people, and it's quite different. It's quite different than probably what you're used to in New Zealand. So one of the things is, like in the Western world, and I'm originally from the Netherlands, right? If somebody doesn't speak English like we do, you might think they're not as competent. But that's not true in Asia. That's not at all, right? Because we focus a lot on self-promotion, right? Assertiveness. Whereas we see in Asian cultures, the work should speak for itself, right? If I have a good reputation, if I can do good work, within 6 to 9 months, you'll see that things really work. And it is how it works, right? There's a lot of focus on listening, consensus building, whereas maybe New Zealand has a very, how can I say, you're not very hierarchical, right? Asia is. It is. You're the boss. You tell people what to do. People execute on that. If you find the good ones that can match your culture, perfect. Most of the time, it's pretty top down, right? You also need to make sure that you find the people who have local expertise. Very, very important. Don't go for the guys who's going to boast a lot about themselves because they might not be the right match, right? And like I said, it's quite different. But it's very important that you learn how to read between the lines when you hire people. Or if you hire people, get some experts who can help you with that. Right? So some of the pitfalls that you can think about, focus on past success without context, right? Maybe that person skilled the company very well, but the context maybe right now have been very different, right? So don't always look at the past success of candidates. Short-term expectation, like I told you, the CEO, he expected after 2 years that he would already be ROI positive, where it took it actually 2.5 years, right? Sales cycles at the beginning can be really long, especially enterprise. Sometimes you look at 9 to 18 months. So even for you as a startup or scale up, it might take some time, and that's okay. That money is gonna be burned. It's your tuition fee, right? It's your scholar fee you have to pay in that market to be successful. Relation building, I think this is one of the key things that you have to focus on in any market that you want to be successful in B2B tech, but especially more in Asia Pacific. You really have to build those relationships, and it will take time, right? You need to be in that market in order to reap the success. If you're not willing to put in the 3 years, don't go into any market. And just focus on what you're familiar with. Focus on New Zealand, maybe focus on Australia, and then see after that. Right? And what I see very often in big companies, everything is HQ led. No, you need to give up. That person is going to lead their day-to-day in their market and empower them to take all the decisions. Right? Culture is strategy for breakfast. I'm sure this is one that we all heard, but I think this is one of the key things when you expand. You have to be very open-minded. Like I said, that CEO, although he was extremely successful, he was not open-minded. He did almost everything wrong. So what does this mean for expansion, right? It means like you have to adapt. If you don't adapt as a company, you can't be successful. Same as a person there, right? So for instance, you run a company and you're making 10 million turnover. You have two co-founders and you say you want to expand. Maybe one of your co-founders has to go to that market. Are you willing to give that up? Are you willing to give that up? If you're not willing to give it up, might as well go. In the end, you do have to control things. And if you move overseas, New Zealand is 4 hours out. If you move to Europe, it's what? 10 hours.
12.
Yeah, 12 sometimes. Yeah, depends where, right? So if you're a small company and you may not have raised Series A, you might have to go there. Are you okay to move 6 months there or 12 months? Can your family take it or you don't have family? It's a big change, right? So a little bit about Singapore. Like I said, I'm not promoting Singapore, but I just want to give you an objective point of view, what I've experienced and what I see. So this is the century of Asia, right? Although you guys are in the Asia Pac part of Asia, this is really the century of Asia in terms of GDP growth, middle class. Yes, it is. So you guys are at the right spot. So Singapore is like the Silicon Valley of Asia. And this has changed rapidly. I've been in Singapore now 13 years. It has really changed in the last 10 years, really a lot, right? It's the second most innovative country globally. They're the leaders in finance and high tech. 80 of the 100 most successful tech companies are in Singapore for Asia Pacific or Southeast Asia, right? So you have all the big guys there who are successful, right? They take a long approach, but they're successful, right? All English, all communications in English. Fantastic. You already nailed that part, right? Many entrepreneurial opportunities and talent. Okay, why Singapore? There's 7,000 multinationals. So if you're targeting multinationals, you can definitely do business in Singapore. You have another 37,000 international companies. So it means they're not homegrown companies, right? And then you can also view it as a base. If you're interested to go to Japan, okay, from Singapore you can do Japan, or from Singapore you can do China, right? You're within that great base. And it's a big credibility builder once you're in Singapore. So this is a bit of the cost. Set up your company, hiring and finance, because I want to make it very practical for you guys to understand what it means, right? So to set up and do the incorporation of your company takes on average between $2,000 to $4,000 US. Very cheap. Can be set up while having a cup of coffee.
Cheaper in New Zealand. It's cheaper in New Zealand.
Yeah, I came here and I had to pay $100 for a visa. I was shocked. I'm sure it goes to a good purpose. This is $100, right? Employer-friendly laws, right? Easy to hire, easy to fire. Unfortunately for some. Very pro-business. There's a flat corporate tax of 17%. On your first 3 years as a company, you don't pay tax. Hardly pay tax, right? So what a lot of companies do, they shift their HQ. They just put it in Singapore instead because they pay less tax. No capital gains, no dividend tax. So whatever profits you make, you pay your tax, you can put it in your pocket. And then you have something similar to GDPR. And in Singapore, they're called PDPA. So your data is safe. Your IP is safe once you register it in Singapore.
What's the startup support?
Startup support is big. So for my session tomorrow, I will explain more how many VCs are out there. But there are more than 2,000 family offices. So you have to see a lot of family offices. Do you guys know what's a family office? So it's basically big companies to set up the office to do the investments. So you have 2,000 plus family offices. But I remember top of mind, 1,000 plus VCs. It's really moving fast because that was not the same 10 years ago. And now, whatever is happening in the US, whatever is happening in China, and what happened in Hong Kong, so it all comes to Singapore. So my wife she's in a startup. They're making tempeh chips, and in 6 months, they were still pre-seed. They raised $2 million, and it was not difficult. I invested in a company too, but they raised $2 million just by talking to the right people. There's a lot of funding opportunity there.
Yeah, has the corporate tax rate moved upwards in the last 5 or 6 years?
What has moved upwards, and it's a good question, is the individual tax rate. It has gone up slightly, but if you make more than $1 million, then it has gone up. But anyway, I think most people are not impacted. Any questions? Notice.
So it's really easy setup for startups, not only the investment side,
Any
but also
company,
if you want to, yeah, lots of, kind of breaks and,
English, easy to set up, easy to do business, easy to rent, easy to get visas if you're entrepreneurial. Yeah, it's like I remember the first time I came to Singapore, so I was working for a big multinational, Daniël. I was doing marketing for them, and they applied for my visa. I got approved in 4 hours. It's a joke, right? You would come to the Netherlands, probably they take at least a week, 4 hours. So it's really, really efficient, right? And then if you're in Singapore, you can basically drive to Malaysia. It's a 30 minutes drive. And then if you're in Singapore, you can take the boat to Indonesia. It's a 30 minutes boat. So you're really well connected into a different part of the world if you want to do business there. And even around Singapore, Malaysia, English, if your product is in English, Malaysia, you can sell. Philippines, you can sell. Certain parts of Indonesia, you can sell. Right? If you want to move further, you have to do more localization. But there's a big market out there.
Would you say that the investors in Singapore have a higher risk tolerance towards investing in?
Yeah, very high. Very high. Of course, they got burnt a number of times. I mean, also big of the big the big VCs are also state-run, and they made some mistakes. They lost a lot of money, especially in crypto. Like most of us did. But they're very focused on bringing and building this up really big. Because they know it's working, right? I've been in this startup scene for quite some time, and I see it can really scale, and the money is available.
There's a lot of good being talked here about Singapore. What about the bad? It can't be all good. Also, how does Singapore compare to Taiwan and Taipei?
So it depends where you want to focus. So what can be challenging in Singapore? I wouldn't say it's challenging, but the cost is high, right? So basically you go to Singapore, probably the labor is a similar price as New Zealand, right? But however, how you can counter that is usually if you have a dev shop, right? So you have a tech product, your dev shop is maybe in India, or your dev shop is maybe in Malaysia or Indonesia. So in Singapore, usually you put the strategic leaders, the masterminds, but the back-end office you do somewhere else. So remember the case study that I just shared about the CEO? He said, oh, from Indonesia, I can service some of my Singapore clients, so you reduce your cost. The other thing, but I think in Singapore, rent might be high, right? Rent is high, probably higher than here in New Zealand. Labor is the same price. It's hot, so if you don't like hot weather, maybe don't move to Singapore. It's very hot. On average, it feels like 32 degrees. No, I think that's about it. Sometimes it can be challenging initially to get your visa, but as an entrepreneurial visa. But when you set up the company, what you have to keep in mind is that your paid up capital needs to be higher, right? So if you start a company, you say, oh, I want to live in Singapore, you put $1 paid up capital, but maybe like, okay, maybe you can put $50,000, $100,000, but you can use that money to offset the salaries of the employees. Right, so you can start with a small capital, that's okay, but usually they want to see that you're serious. But besides that, no, I only have like good stuff. Yeah, it's, of course, if you hire people, they can be quickly fired, which is also negative. And if you pull out of Singapore, you need to make sure you pay your taxes. Right? So I have companies who pulled out of Singapore and they didn't pay their taxes, and those people who are directors of those companies, they can enter Singapore, but they will be jailed. So if you do it, pay your taxes. The rest you can all do, it's okay, but pay your taxes. Yeah. Any other questions? Did that answer your questions?
Yeah, that was just one other thing. You mentioned that Singapore is like the Silicon Valley of Asia, but doesn't Taiwan and Taipei also fall into that, with actually a bit of a bigger kind of market in that regard in terms of exports?
So I don't have that much experience about Taiwan, but it depends what kind of business they're in. So I guess if you're semiconductors, yeah, maybe Singapore and Malaysia is also a lot of semiconductors, but if you're really focusing on the manufacturing of things, then maybe it's better to go to Taiwan because you're closer to China. But the challenge is when you're in Taiwan, your focus is on Greater Asia. So that will be like, my focus was on China, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan. That's when you move to Taiwan. But Singapore, your focus can be globally. Right? So you always have to see which markets do you want to penetrate. Right? If you want to do business in the Taiwan market, yeah, of course, go to Taiwan. But if you want to do business globally or regionally, I recommend to go there. But really, you have to see what is your particular business objective that you want to achieve.
Do they speak English extensively in Taiwan? I don't think so. I don't think so.
They speak
They do, but not extensively like in Singapore.
Not like in Singapore, but you know, kind of, we have a lot of startup fundings, and they really want to overcome that mistake they made, you know, that they kind of just stayed on these semiconductors and they start on the mobiles.
I speak Chinese, so it's not an issue.
So I got a question from online from Rogan, who was curious, are there one or two books that have kind of changed your perspective in this space, or that you'd recommend people go out and read?
Yeah, a long time ago, I read the book, was the Scale Up. That's a good one. In general, the best is always to talk to people. In books you read one thing, but actually it's like I said initially, go on the ground, go really on the ground, because when we're a startup, we all get these big ideas. Oh, we can conquer the world. Get the feedback from the market. It's okay to get slapped, but get that feedback before you get into the market. Yeah, that's what I recommend.
And then another one, I think this is referring to Singapore. What is their position on carbon legislation and sustainability?
That's a very
that's quite specific.
That's a very specific question. I know Singapore is wants to also focus to be the tech carbon hub. So most of the buildings, they're all built according to the latest sustainability standards. I know most companies who are listed in Singapore who are listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange, they also need to have a sustainability report. But I would say compared to probably Australia, Europe and the US is behind. Cool. Any other questions from online or any other questions from the audience? I know it's a lot to take in. Expanding is exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. How well is the connection between Singapore and Japan?
Oh, it's quite good. So in Singapore, I think the number one and number two is the number of people from countries that come in. I think number one is America. I think number two is China. Number three is Japan. So most of the big Japanese companies, they all have either the HQ for Southeast Asia or Asia Pacific there. They all bring it to Singapore.
Okay. And are there any cultural, kind of thoughts like, if you want to succeed in the Japanese market, you first have to succeed in a different one? Or, kind of like... Yeah.
No. So I've done 2 expansions to Japan. One succeeded, one failed.
Okay.
So Japan is an extremely difficult market. It's really an island. I lived in Japan, I studied in Japan, I speak some Japanese. But one succeeded. Why? Because they gave it time and they hired the right people. So I think after 1.5 years, they closed their first big deal. And the Japanese market is massive, but it's extremely difficult to penetrate due to culture. And the Japanese tend to be extremely in depth when they want to know about topics. Singapore usually has a balance. So usually in Japan, you need to be very organized, who you want to hire, how you want to do it, especially enterprise sales. 2.5 to 3 years to close your first deal. So one other company I did it for, cybersecurity company. I think they burn about 100,000 a month. They hire people in Japan, but the business is not taking off.
And the reason?
Don't hire the right people, don't focus on the right audience, don't focus on the trust and relation building. Relation building takes a long time. In Japan, it's just a tough market to penetrate. You need to give yourself time and hire the right people. If you don't have that, 3 to 4 years.
Do you have any experience in consumer products?
Yeah, I was former FMCG.
Oh, yes, I know that.
Yes, I know.
Sorry.
So yes. Yeah.
How is that then?
In Japan?
Yeah.
I didn't do the Japanese market for fast-moving consumer goods. No. But then it's a completely different route, tech versus fast-moving consumer goods, where you need to appoint a distributor, they need to set up the office there, you need to run promotions with the trade. Yeah, very different. Any other questions? I think spend long enough, right? Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah.
Daniel, this is a little token of appreciation.
Thank
from
you.
us.
Chocolate,
It's
nice.
Wellington Chocolate Factory, made just around the corner. Some of the best chocolate in the world, we like to think. So we've got a selection of different bars there. Thanks for those who've joined us today, both in person and online. Just a reminder that free startup coaching, if you want to grab it, startupatearoa.org. Founder launch, if you want some of those learning tools. And keep an eye out on our events pages and our socials to keep an eye on the other upcoming events. We will have another session coming up for startup sessions in May. We're just working with Angel HQ. We're going to have a panel of angels coming along talking about the investment journey from their perspective, some of the things they've invested, why they invest, those sorts of things. We haven't locked in a date yet because we're just trying to lock in the exact angels who are going to come along. So make sure you're signed up on all our socials, our newsletter, but because you've come to this event, you'll get a notification when the booking for that event goes live. Great to see some familiar faces, those of you who've come before. Great to see some new faces as well. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Thank you to Daniel. It was a really fantastic session. I really feel like we got some really in-depth value. And thanks again to Paddy and the Salamander crew, who we have a phenomenal partnership, and we really appreciate that partnership across the programs that we run. Best way to connect with you?
Yeah, connect via LinkedIn if you want to.
Yep. Apart from that, hopefully we'll see you all again next month. Thanks very much.